Hey, what's up? Jonathan Fink, author of the Republic Baseball League, and this is my audiobook series, and we are on chapter 3 of volume 1 of the story of Kevin Dempsey, the professor from University of Missouri, the Republic Baseball League. Do me a favor, please like and subscribe. Let's get to it. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. Chapter 3, The Political Economy. The first semester students were already in their seats when Professor Dempsey entered the lecture hall. He was wearing a colorful Nolan Ryan Houston Astros baseball jersey that he purchased in 1994, 1 year after the hard-throwing right-hander retired from baseball. Dempsey considered Ryan one of the best pitchers of all time, and he had the credentials to support Dempsey's opinion. He still holds several Major League Baseball records, including the most career strikeouts by a pitcher with 5,714, the most no-hitters with 7, and the lowest batting average allowed, 204. Dempsey had another reason for wearing Ryan's jersey, which he would discuss later during his lecture on economics. He said to the class, "Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Political Economy class. I am Professor Dempsey, and I am fired up to have you here. Let's get started." Following the lead of the barbershop, Dempsey had taken the liberty of decorating this classroom with a great deal of baseball memorabilia. One side wall of the lecture hall was covered with colorful baseball pennants of former Major League Baseball teams, including the Brooklyn Dodgers, the New York Giants, the Seattle Pilots, and the Milwaukee Braves. His baseball decorations also included a painting of Larry Doby of the Cleveland Indians sliding into third base. Next to the painting was a framed team poster of the 1994 Montreal Expos. Hanging next to the Montreal Expos was a Kansas City Athletics baseball jersey, also in a frame. Clearly, Dempsey loved baseball, and his extension collection of memorabilia confirmed it. Dempsey canvassed the lecture hall and saw every seat occupied. He noticed a female student in the third row wearing a blue and white George Brett Kansas City Royals jersey. Dempsey thought she looked like a young Natalie Portman, nodding in her direction to acknowledge her, and said, "Hey, third row, nice jersey. Glad to have another true baseball fan in the room. I think you're really going to enjoy this class." Then Dempsey got down to business. He began his first lecture of the semester with a very technical introduction. He said, "The blend of political science and economics provides the foundation for this class. Political economists study government or organizational policies to determine how they impact the economy. Researchers study economic theories such as capitalism, socialism, and communism, and evaluate their impact in the real world. Our field of economics draws upon sociology and political science to define the manner in which government and economic systems influence each other. Political economists examine the potential benefits and risks associated with the implementation of these policies and theories. They also examine how individuals might participate in changes. By studying the interplay between capital and labor, for example, political economists can generate policy outcomes beneficial to society. Similarly, when creating new institutions and organizations, political economists can infuse ideology into the process, which allows individuals and members of those organizations to decide what they should do to remain consistent with their basic values and beliefs. This, in a nutshell, is what political economics is all about. In this class, we're going to explore some of the noticeable moments at which politics and economics have intersected with professional baseball in meaningful ways. Here, you will see how politics and economics constantly crosses over into baseball. For example, in the structure of the league, in labor negotiations, in team relocations from one city to another, and in payroll policies. And I have no doubt that this intersection will continue to occur in the decades to come. Dempsey explained to his students that he planned to make learning about the political economy easier, more interesting, and hopefully more enjoyable by using the business of baseball as a platform to teach his political and economic concepts throughout the semester. Following his lesson plan for the lecture, Dempsey changed direction and asked if anyone in the class had any idea why he was wearing a Houston Astros jersey from the 1970s. Finding no volunteers, he explained its significance. He told the students that while baseball in the 1970s may be most remembered as the decade of synthetic AstroTurf playing surfaces, symmetrical multi-purpose stadiums with corporate suites, and carefully cultivated mustaches worn by Raleigh Fingers and Goose Gossage, it was also the decade of radical designed and fashionable baseball uniforms. The Houston Astros jersey he was wearing was a perfect example. It was a colorful pullover jersey without buttons that the team wore for both home and away games. It featured solid blocks of horizontal red, orange, and yellow stripes from the chest down. Dempsey said this unique jersey design even earned itself a nickname, the Tequila Sunrise, because it resembles the cocktail drink. I've always loved this jersey because it introduced the economics of fashion and design into baseball attire. But at the same time, the jersey saddens me because, in my opinion, that period of time marked the end of the first golden age of baseball. Dempsey then changed the direction of his lecture again. He proceeded to give the class a history lesson on baseball. He explained that in 1858, 16 ball clubs from the New York City area formed the sport's first governing body, the National Association of Baseball Players. Eventually, the game became so popular that people wanted to watch the action live in person. It didn't take long after that for local news publications to begin covering baseball games. This created good press, turned some journalists into sports writers, and helped sell more newspapers. Baseball's popularity continued to flourish, and by the 1890s, there was enough demand for in-progress games to be broadcast by telegraph. The first sale of broadcast rights of baseball games occurred in 1897, and years later, in 1913, Western Union agreed to a 5-year deal for the rights to broadcast the games on the radio. Baseball club owners originally resisted this arrangement, fearing it would hurt ticket sales at the gate. To the contrary, radio became a huge source of income and free advertising for the ball clubs. It actually attracted more local fans to attend home games and non-local fans to follow their favorite teams over the airways. The first World Series to be aired nationally occurred a decade later in 1922. By 1950, national radio broadcasts of regular season games were added to the Liberty Broadcasting System, and the big bucks started to roll in. Dempsey's lecture on baseball history continued. He focused on the plight of African Americans. He told the class that they began playing baseball in the late 1800s, on all-black teams in the military, on corporate company teams, and for a few lucky enough to enroll in college. Based on talent, they eventually were permitted to join professional major league teams that previously had been white players only. Moses Fleetwood Walker and Bud Fowler were among the first African Americans to integrate and excel. However, the advancement of black baseball players was short-lived. Racism and Jim Crow laws caused them to be excluded from these teams by 1900s. As a result, black players again formed their own units and went barnstorming all around the country to play anyone who would accept their challenge. The last topic Dempsey discussed with the class was the formation of what is known today as Major League Baseball. He mentioned the very early years during which almost every major league that formed failed. It wasn't until the National League was founded in 1876 that baseball made its mark and began to thrive. 25 years later, in 1901, the National League's first successful counterpart, the American League, which evolved from the minor Western League, was established. The two competing leagues, each with 8 teams, were rivals that fought to attract the best players and fans. In 1903, after months of conflict, economics took over, and the leagues agreed to merge. With the combination, the organization known as Major League Baseball was formed, and professional baseball began its evolution into the multi-billion-dollar industry it is today. Then, Dempsey looked at his watch and said, "That's about it for today, everyone. We've covered a lot of ground, with much more to come. Read your next assignment on the antitrust exemption and come prepared to answer questions and do most of the talking at our next class." As the students walked out of the lecture hall, Dempsey thought about his busy day ahead. He had 2 more economics classes to teach. Then he planned to drive downtown to hit some balls to the kids at the baseball academy and make a stop in the back room of the barbershop. That would be followed by a return trip to campus, specifically to the 3rd floor of the university library, to delve deeper into his new idea for his PhD thesis. End of chapter 3. Please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for joining me and watching. I appreciate you guys. And as always, God bless.
This month, we have some great sports card stories from across the U.S. and talk to an author from nearby Leawood, Kansas, who has written a book about returning to collecting after 3 decades away.
My day job is I'm a financial advisor, so I've been investing for over 20 years. In a way to express my love for the hobby, I decided, what if I write an investment book, Sports Card Collectors Club, and treat the stock market the same way I would treat the card market. And so I thought, well, how would a day trader invest in cards? How would a venture capitalist buy and sell cards? How would a hedge fund do it? As I would go through my trials and tribulations, I realized that for as much fun as I was having investing, there was something missing. And one day I was watching the Royals game on television, and it was a rain delay. And the Card Life television show came on. I was watching that episode, I was watching Matt Strom open cards and rip packs, and I started getting the warm, fuzzy feeling. I said, this is what I want to be doing. I want to get back to really collecting and ripping cards and building sets. And that's where the story of my book has a change. I go from investing back to collecting.
I'll also open a variety of boxes from different sports. So he hit the home run off me in like the 7th inning. And then in the 8th inning, JT hit a double, so he's standing on second. And Mason Wynn asked him, he's like, "Hey JT," he's like, "I heard Strom collects cards of guys that take him deep." He's like, "Does that mean he's gonna send me over a couple cards to sign tomorrow?" And after the game, we had won. I mean, winning is the only thing that's important to me. So it's like, I was good after the game, whatever, and JT comes up to me and he's like, "Hey Stromy," he was really genuine. Like he wasn't taking shots. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, when I got to second, Mason asked if you're gonna send a card over for him."
I'm just looking around my basement here, just walls covered with concert posters and toys, and just like, I have no intention of selling these things. I collect because I want to show off the things I love and do it in fun ways. And it just never crossed my mind that, hey, I'm going to go buy this thing just so I can resell it. Like that to me isn't a pure collector mentality. And obviously things change and times change. And in order for things to survive right now, you have to have that sort of chase for something valuable.
Yeah, it needs to be a circus. You know what? The truth is, I actually watched the live stream on eBay Live with Ken Golden and Logan Paul. They ripped a box of 86 Flare and a box of Series 1 Pokemon. And you know what? It was very entertaining. They're both polarizing characters. I thought it was entertaining. But you know what? After every pull, they immediately are showing the value. And it begs the question, are we creating, not we, is the industry creating a gambling culture which has a real downside?
It already has. Right. Not created. It's here.
Yeah, and that's a concern. I guess for me, I hope to be an influence where we focus more on collecting, because you know what, when markets crash, collectors don't get hurt at all. Because the Sandy Koufax you bought that because it makes you feel good. It brings back good memories.
Said this one traded for my first big win. Jonathan Fink on the line tonight.
You have created community, so let's talk about that. I went to Rip Night at your shop. Let's rip another pack, and I went to your Rip Night 2 years ago. And it was one of the best. I wrote about it in volume 1. It was one of the best times I've ever had. You guys had this giant scoreboard where you had the chase cards, and everyone can buy whatever product you wanted, like buy 3, get 1 free, whatever product, whatever it was. You then, if you pull a Bronny James, you then get another blaster. Or I pulled a Reed Shepherd auto, and then I got a free T-shirt. And I sat around the table with strangers and had the best time ever. So let's talk about how important community is, and what you guys do is provide an anchor for community in our town. How important that is.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, one of our taglines, we say we'll make an offer on anything, but like you said, we got to pay what it's worth, and so if it's junk wax, it's going to be junk wax prices, which unfortunately, a lot of people end up thinking that their 87 Topps Barry Bonds is going to be a couple $100.
It's worth nothing, people.
Brand and notoriety. And so when you're pitching these stories to these athletes, like I've reached out to a couple of different athletes about writing a potential article about their collections and having them kind of share their story. And it's like, yes, like I write for collectibles on SI, which is under the Sports Illustrated umbrella. It does carry weight. Like it does, people recognize that brand. It is important. And so I'm super grateful that I've been given the opportunity to write for that staff.
The top segment that was done by you on you was so well produced, right? Did all that come from the conversation you had with Michael Rubin? Is that how that put you on the map to such an extent that all those opportunities happened? How did that happen? Did you get a call one day?
Said this one traded for my first big win. Jonathan Fink on the line tonight with a pack in hand and a story that bites.
I didn't even collect when I was 3 years old, like when this card came out, but he just pulled a good one. Roman Anthony, from Dempsey. I love Wichita State. Yeah. I would have been floated, went to Tulane, but his parents have roots in Nebraska. So for him, it was coming home. And so Nebraska got a good one. And so I'm not surprised that program's on the rise, because they got a great stadium. They have great resources. They got a great fan base with people like you. And their recruiting is fantastic. They're finding the talented kids. So
yeah, in fact,
the Big Ten.
So yeah, Will Bolt, the head coach, he actually played at Nebraska when I was traveling with the Nebraska team in the late '90s. He was down at Texas A&M when I worked at Texas A&M. Rob Childress is the pitching coach, and I was on the hiring committee that hired him away from Nebraska to come down at Texas A&M, and they're thrilled that he's back here in Nebraska. He's a genius. The number of players in pro ball right now that went through Rob Childress, so he'll be under good guidance when he gets up here to Nebraska. They're good people.
One kid found a mantle in the rain. One old friend came back with the same old chain.
Talk to me about the reaction of the players, the other players, when they see this bat putter. Are they flipping out? They freak out when they see it?
When they see it, and they're like, they just stop. Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
So the reason why I asked that question is because I had that experience literally yesterday. So when I first got the bat putter, I think I bought it 6 months ago, and it's customized for the Republic Baseball League, which is so cool. And now that I realize, now that I love it so much, and I got to use it yesterday, I'm like, I got to start buying them for different people. Like anyone's a guest on my show, they're gonna get a bat putter, okay? Yeah. But the point is, I never use it because I thought it was too sacred to me. I keep it in my office like a sacred shrine. It means so much to me. But then I was like, after watching all these videos and stuff like that, like, you know what? There's this indoor amazing place in Kansas City called Tap-Ins. Okay, they have an outdoor putt, but also indoor. and depending on the weather, the whole thing, it's an amazing atrium, and it's become a successful business.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, that's a perfect. It was a hot day. I'm like, it's a perfect thing to do. So my buddy Paul Greenwood, who I featured in my first book, we went and played around. And when I showed up with this bat putter, people were freaking out. They were literally losing their minds, and that's when I realized. So then, and then by the way, it was a Sunday, middle of the day, hot as heck. I want to see how it gets made, but you probably do actually.
I want to see if there's quality control testers there.
But you know, attention! If anyone at the Tops is watching, Grip and Rip we want to get invited to a tour at a factory. The two of us.
I told them I would work for free.
Right.
I would work absolutely free. I want to see how their stuff's made.
Yeah, I'm curious. But like collation is like I'm sure there's a bunch of engineers that sit around and design
Got
them.
some breaking news for you.
Yeah?
Slab just texted me.
No way. What do you say? The numbers
Looks
are
like this is the first year to hear it. Who is that?
Right.
Let me see here.
Breaking news. Grip and Rip, breaking news.
Oh, U.S. agent. Okay, so I just got told that the finest mega boxes are going to be really, really, really good.
Oh, interesting.
1.6 numbered cards a box. So you're guaranteed one numbered card with a 60% chance to pull a second numbered card.
Wow,
And
interesting.
Autos are 1 in 3.
Whoa. So do you think that Topps decided to go big because this is their first year with Topps Finest in retail?
I'm going to say yes. Yes.
Right? Because
I do think so.
You usually get so upset with the delayed numbers, that they're delaying them. Or maybe, by the way, I don't know if it's a conspiracy that the odds are coming out later. I just think that maybe they're just not as efficient as they used to be.
You might have watched this game back
I'm
when,
sure I did.
Currently,
yeah,
it's
Derek
only
Coleman. Yeah, he was on my fantasy team for sure.
pretty crazy to think, in the future you would be able to collect that moment that you watched.
Right. And by the way, check that out. It's worth $198 versus the ones that are worth 35 cents because it makes sense. Because the same way that you value your 1964 Willie Mays card, you're going to value your Drazen Petrovic, and you're not going to want to give it up unless it's for a very, very good price because you love that memory. And what's wild is the same way that you get the warm, fuzzy feeling with dopamine hit, whatever, when you look at a card on your shelf, it's the same thing. But when you're online at the bank, you don't have your cards with you, Paulie, but you do have your phone, and you can pull up your Drazen Petrovic and pay respect to him and watch a couple of his awesome plays that give you the warm fuzzies because you can. It's wild. And so